Imagine this. You've just sold your life's work for $38 million. You're sitting in the most exclusive restaurant in the city, celebrating with the two people you love most in this world, your daughter and son-in-law. The champagne is flowing, laughter fills the air, and for the first time in decades, you feel truly free. Then, a security guard approaches your table and whispers words that shatter your world forever. "Sir, I saw your son-in-law put something in your drink." What would you do? What could you possibly think in that moment when the people you trusted most become your greatest threat? Tonight, I'm sharing a story that will make you question everything you thought you knew about family, trust, and the dangerous power of greed. Because sometimes the people closest to us harbor the darkest secrets. My name is David Alazar, and 3 months ago, I thought I had the perfect life. At 65, I had built Alazar Technologies from a small garage startup into a company worth $38 million. 42 years of 16-hour days, missed family dinners, and sacrificed weekends had finally paid off. The sale was complete, the money was in my account, and I was ready to enjoy the retirement I'd earned. My daughter Oskara had always been the light of my life. Smart, ambitious, with her mother's green eyes and my stubborn determination. When she married Dominic Johnson 5 years ago, I welcomed him into our family with open arms. He seemed perfect for her, charming, well-educated, and he made her laugh in ways I hadn't seen since her mother passed away 8 years earlier. But looking back now, I can see the signs I missed. The way Dominic's eyes would light up whenever we discussed the business. How we'd steer conversations toward my retirement plans and what would happen to the company. The subtle questions about my will, disguised as concern for my future well-being. "Dad, you should really think about your estate planning," Oskara had said just 2 weeks before the sale. "With this kind of money, you need to make sure everything is properly structured." At the time, I thought it was loving concern. Now I realize it was reconnaissance. The day I announced the sale, their reactions should have been my first real warning. While I expected excitement for my newfound freedom, what I saw was something different. Oskara hugged me, but her smile seemed forced. Dominic shook my hand with enthusiasm that felt rehearsed. They asked all the right questions, said all the right things, but something felt off. "$38 million," Dominic had repeated, almost like he was savoring the words. "That's incredible, David. You must feel like the weight of the world has been lifted off your shoulders." But what I felt was unease. The way he said it, the way they both looked at me afterward, it was like they were seeing me differently. Not as a father or father-in-law, but something else entirely. Something valuable.
The celebration dinner was my idea. Bella Vista, the most exclusive restaurant in the city, with a view of the park and the kind of ambiance that makes you feel like you're living in a movie. I wanted to share this moment with the only family I had left, to toast not just my success, but our future together. Oskara looked beautiful in her navy dress, the one she wore to special occasions. Dominic was impeccably dressed, as always, charming the waitstaff with his easy smile. We ordered the finest wine, the best dishes on the menu. Everything felt perfect. "To new beginnings," I raised my glass, feeling lighter than I had in years. "To family," Oskara responded, but something in her eyes didn't match her words. We talked about my travel plans, Japan, Italy, all the places I dreamed of visiting but never had time for. They seemed genuinely interested, asking about my itinerary, how long I'd be gone. Dominic even suggested some restaurants in Tokyo, places he'd heard about from business associates. "You know what, Dad?" Oskara said suddenly. "We should dance. They have that lovely jazz quartet tonight." Before I could respond, she was pulling Dominic toward the small dance floor near the bar. I watched them move together, graceful and elegant, and felt a warmth in my chest. This was what success really meant. Not the money, but moments like this with the people you love. I sipped my wine and watched other couples on the dance floor, lost in my own thoughts about the future. That's when I noticed the man in the dark suit near the terrace railing. He'd been watching our table for several minutes, his attention focused and professional. Security, I assumed. High-end establishments always had discreet protection. But then he was walking toward me, his expression serious and troubled. "Excuse me, sir. I'm Marcus, security for this establishment. I need to tell you something important." I looked up at him, confused. "Yes? What's the matter?" "I saw that young man put something in your drink while you were watching the musicians. The orange juice beside your wine glass." The words hit me like a physical blow. I stared at him, certain I'd misheard. "What? Are you absolutely certain?" "Unfortunately, yes. He used a small container, added something when you were distracted by the music. I've been watching because his behavior seemed suspicious." I looked toward the orange juice glass, innocent-looking amber liquid with melting ice, the glass I'd been planning to finish when they returned from dancing. I felt the blood drain from my face. "That's my son-in-law," I whispered. "That's my daughter's husband." Marcus nodded grimly. "I'm sorry, sir. I know this is difficult, but I couldn't let you drink that without warning you." I looked toward the dance floor, where Oskara and Dominic moved together in what now looked like a choreographed performance. They'd planned this. They'd come here tonight not to celebrate with me, but to murder me. My own daughter. The child I'd raised, loved, sacrificed for. She was trying to kill me. For money.
The next few minutes felt like moving through underwater. Marcus discreetly helped me transfer some of the orange juice to a small container for evidence, then watched as I poured the rest into a decorative plant nearby. By the time Oskara and Dominic returned to the table, I had composed myself enough to act normal. "Did you enjoy the music?" Oskara asked, sliding back into her chair with a smile that now looked predatory. "Beautiful," I managed, my voice surprisingly steady. "You two dance so well together." Dominic glanced at the empty orange juice glass, and I caught something in his expression. Relief? Satisfaction? The look of someone who believed their plan had worked. "We should do this more often," he said, but his attention kept drifting to my glass. I made excuses about feeling tired, about the long day with final paperwork. I left money on the table and kissed them both goodbye, my lips touching the cheek of my daughter who had just tried to poison me. "I love you, Dad," Oskara said as I prepared to leave. "I love you too," I replied, and the words felt like saying goodbye to someone who had already died. The next morning, I drove to Morrison Analytics, a discreet laboratory that handled sensitive testing for people who needed privacy. Dr. Elizabeth Morrison herself handled my consultation, understanding immediately that discretion was paramount. "The sample will undergo complete toxicological analysis," she explained. "Results in 48 hours. Those were the longest 48 hours of my life. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't stop thinking about the daughter I'd raised and the man she'd married. Had they planned this together? Was Oskara the mastermind, or had Dominic convinced her? Did it matter? When the results came back, they confirmed my worst fears. Potassium cyanide in lethal dosage. Professional-grade poison that would have killed me within minutes. This wasn't a moment of anger or passion. This was cold, calculated murder. I immediately called my attorney, Harold Steinberg. "I need to change my will," I told him. "Remove Oskara and Dominic as beneficiaries. Everything goes to medical research instead." Harold asked no questions, simply prepared the documents. Within hours, my daughter and son-in-law had gone from inheriting $38 million to inheriting nothing. 3 days later, I returned to Bella Vista. Same table, same view, but everything had changed. The decorative plant I'd watered with poisoned orange juice had died, its brown withered leaves serving as proof of what they'd tried to do to me. Oskara and Dominic arrived right on time, their faces carrying the subtle satisfaction of people who thought they'd gotten away with murder. They had no idea I was still alive, no idea their plan had been discovered. "Dad, you look well," Dominic said, and I caught the surprise in his voice. "Better than expected." "Better than you hoped, you mean," I replied quietly. I placed an envelope on the table between us. Inside was a letter explaining everything: the witness, the toxicology report, the changed will. I watched their faces as they read, witnessed the exact moment their future crumbled into dust. "This contains everything you need to know about your failed attempt," I said, as Dominic's hands trembled with the letter. "You wanted my money. Medical research will benefit from it instead. You wanted me dead. You're dead to me instead." I stood and walked away, leaving them with their destroyed dreams and the evidence of their crimes. Behind me, I heard Oskara's voice rise in desperate pleading, but the words meant nothing anymore. The hardest part isn't the betrayal itself. It's realizing that the people you love most were never really the people you thought they were. Oskara wasn't the loving daughter who worried about my retirement. She was someone who saw me as an obstacle to wealth. Dominic wasn't the charming man who made my daughter happy. He was a calculating predator who had turned her into his accomplice. But there's something else I've learned from this experience. Sometimes the most devastating betrayals become the greatest gifts. Because now I know the truth. Now I'm free not just from work, but from the illusion that blood relations guarantee loyalty. I'm still planning those trips to Japan and Italy. I'm still going to see the pyramids and walk through Tokyo. But I'll be doing it as a man who's learned that family isn't about DNA. It's about the people who genuinely care whether you live or die. And sometimes the people who care most are complete strangers like Marcus, the security guard, who saved my life by doing the right thing when he didn't have to. So, here's my question for you. Have you ever discovered something about someone close to you that completely changed how you saw them? Maybe it wasn't attempted murder, but perhaps a betrayal that made you realize they weren't who you thought they were. How did you handle it? Did it make you stronger, or did it leave you unable to trust again? Share your story in the comments below. Sometimes the most healing thing we can do is realize we're not alone in our experiences with betrayal and disappointment. If this story resonated with you, please give this video a like and subscribe to Hidden Hearth for more true stories about the secrets that families keep and the courage it takes to face difficult truths. Because every family has hidden corners, and sometimes shining light into those dark places is the only way to find peace. Thank you for listening, and remember, the people who truly love you will never see your success as their opportunity.